Thank you so much, Dr. McLean. She figured out my secret. I really did very deliberately choose those biographical details because they're highlights of the kinds of things that ought to be in an academic portfolio. Can everybody hear me all right? Good. You've got the degree, which suggests I've got certain mastery of skills and abilities in my major. You've got the job, which suggests I've got some hands-on application of what I learned in school. But then you've got the sort of extracurricular kinds of things, the activities that suggest that I have deliberately tried to extend my reach a little bit. Those are probably the details that you find more interesting too. Let's just be honest about it. You're probably more interested to know that I work with a group of Tibetan monks in Bloomington, people who report to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I do their Facebook and their Twitter for them. And I'm coaching them to be able to take over the processes for themselves. But that's the kind of detail, the kind of story that people are interested in too, because it suggests, again, you're flexible. You can add to that portfolio. You can continue to grow. On the other hand, right now, I suspect that you all are feeling rather like this in terms of your own academic portfolios. Probably a little bit empty, that portfolio right now. The key here is, though, that you want to have it empty as opposed to full of the wrong kinds of things. I was talking earlier about using social media for good purposes, but you've got peers, I know you never do this, but you have peers who put all kinds of things out there in cyberspace that project the wrong story about themselves, and some of that information will follow them forever. Wrong information, single stories, and that's not where you want to go. If you did watch the TED TV interview, then you saw Chimanchanda Adichie talking a little bit about this from a different perspective. Her presentation was called The Danger of a Single Story, and right there is my favorite quote from the whole thing. She said, "I recently spoke at a university where a student told me that it was such a shame that Nigerian men were physical abusers, like the father character in my novel. I told him that I had just read a novel called American Psycho, and that it was such a shame that young Americans were serial murderers." Her point, of course, is that you've got to be careful with those stories because you can get the wrong impression. Now, she, of course, is talking about cultural issues that cause difficulties because we get the wrong opinion. Here, I'm talking a little smaller in terms of you as college students who need, again, to do your best through your portfolio and elsewhere to make sure that you're telling the right story. I'm doing a little bit of a pop quiz here, and there is candy involved, and it is corn syrup free and organic, so this is really cool. But this is a simple question. And if you watched this interview again, you heard this before. Common geographical area, you hear it all the time, so fill in the blank with me. Africa is not a... It is a... I don't have enough candy for you all, so it's just comment out there, whoever gets it. Well, at any rate, the point is that it's important that you be able to tell your stories well. A lot's at stake for you, especially at this point in your college careers. One of the things that you've got to keep in mind are my sobering facts. This is my sobering facts slide. I've been paying a lot of attention to occupational projections, and these are two sobering facts. Both in Illinois and in the nation, most of the jobs out there do not require people with degrees to fill them. Most of the jobs are for nurses, for retail salespeople, for home health care aides, for personal health care aides. At best, these people have associate's degrees, and this is the bulk of jobs that are out there. Through 2020, as you can see, almost 80% of those jobs are for people who don't have degrees. Just 16% for a baccalaureate degree person and 5% for the master's degree and above. So that's rather depressing. And this is true even though, again, the Great Recession is starting to be behind us. We are starting to move forward. We are starting to create more jobs. And here's some good news, of course, I should also add. Unemployment really does decrease with educational attainment. So do get your degree. Do that. These are the facts from the Bureau of Labor Statistics October 12 unemployment report. If you have less than a high school degree, unemployment for you right now is 12.2%. 12.2%. Does anybody know what the unemployment rate is nationally, period, in general right now? 7.8. It jumped up a little bit last month. Okay, so 12.2%. High school graduates, it dips down to 8.4%, but that's still unacceptable. If you have some college or that associate's degree, 6.9, so we're getting closer. And then last but not least, even now, while we're still moving out of the Great Recession, if you've got a bachelor's degree or higher, your unemployment rate dips down to 3.8%. It's a good reason to stay the course and get that degree because it will help you in the long run. Well, I want to take a look too at some of those jobs out there. I'm trying to do all the scary facts first before we look at something that's a little more positive, if you will. These data come from the Illinois Department of Employment Security. This shows you the jobs that are out there just in Illinois. I filtered the data so that it only returned the jobs that actually did require a bachelor's degree or higher. And these are the top 20. Now these are jobs that there are the most openings for, either because there are brand new jobs in these fields or because people are retiring or because of both. So take a look with me. Is your job on this list? I'm going to go through it. If you are going to be an elementary school teacher, raise your hand. All right, keep those up. Secondary school teacher, keep your hands up. Accountant or auditor, there we go. General operations managers, if you're in management period, raise your hand there. Management analysts, middle school teachers, keep your hands up. I need to see how many people are going to be employed. How about lawyers? Keep going. Computer programmers. Market research analysts. I got another hand. Software developers, and I have two kinds for applications and later on for systems. All right. Special ed teachers. There's more. Chief executives. You're probably not going to qualify that with a baccalaureate degree, but maybe you have high aspirations. Education administrators, probably a little ahead too. Financial managers. Any financial managers? Network and computer systems administrators, keep your hands up. Preschool teachers, graphic designers, and last but not least, administrative services managers. I know I got half of you on this list, so congratulations. There are jobs for you out there. Now, if your job wasn't on this list, however, it's a reminder of how important this portfolio will be for you. If you are the top in your class, you're still going to get a job if you do this academic portfolio experience quite well. But I also want to add one more sobering fact. Lots of teachers on that list, lots of jobs for teachers, but lots of school districts don't have the money to fill those jobs. So watch out for that. Don't be complacent. At any rate, I want to show you your future from a slightly rosier perspective. This is going to be very artsy, but it's fun, so bear with me if I can get it to work. Will we go? Oops. So, sorry. I'm giving away my etymology. Let me see. How am I going to make that work? You think I do? There he goes. Maybe he's strictly a... Oh, shoot. I'm going to try one more time. Please. There he goes. Does this look familiar? Well, I bet that doesn't look familiar. Well, somebody has, if somebody's been to Burning Man, I want to talk to you after class. That's you guys.
Too smart to go down a not so good street. And you may not find any who want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there, the wide open air. It is true. I know.
You get all hung up, prickly perch, and your gang will fly on. You'll be left in a lurch.
You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant thought. The chances are then that you'll be in the smoke.
You're in a slump. You're not feeling for much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done.
You went into a place where the streets are not hard. Suddenly there's a light and you are mostly in the dark. A place you could sprain, both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win?
And if you go in, should you turn left or right? Or right and 3/4, or maybe not quite. Or go around back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, anything you'll find. For a mind maker offered to make up her mind.
You can get so confused that you'll start to race down long-filled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed by fear towards the most useless place. The waiting place, where people just wait.
Waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go.
Or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or waiting around for yes or no, or waiting for the head to ring. Everyone is just waiting for it.
Waiting for the fish to bite.
Or waiting for the wind to fly a kite. Or waiting around for private light.
Or waiting perhaps for their own good.
For a patch boil.
Or a better drink.
Or a string of pearls.
Or a set of pens. Or a wig with curls. Or another chance. Everyone is just waiting.
No, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all this waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places and put your hands for you. Bam, flip, flapping, once more. Right high. Ready for anything under the sky. Ready? It's going back. Now the places will go. It's hard to be done. There are points to be scored. There is danger to be done.
And the magical thing to do is all basically winning to winner at home.
Fame, you'll be famous, as famous can be. The whole wide world watching you win on TV. Except when they don't, because sometimes they won't.
I'm afraid that from time they play roller games too. Games you can't win because they'll play against you. All alone, whether you like it or not.
Alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road that scare you so much you won't want to go on.
But on you will go, though the battle. On you will go, though your enemies prowl. On you will go, though the happy grass out. On will up in the flaming creek. Though your arms may get sore and your snickers may lose. On and on you will hike. And I know you'll have fun. Face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go.
Sure when you step with care and great tact. And remember that life's a great balancing act.
Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed.
98 and 3/4% guarantee.
Kid, you'll move mountains. So be your name Bucksbaum.
Or Bixby.
Or Bray.
Or Mordecai Ale and Alan O'Shea.
You're off to great places. Today is your day. You're bound to win. So get up your way.
There. Well, you're all familiar with the Dr. Seuss story. Either you read it or a family member read it to you a long time ago. But it's a lovely tale about the human condition, about the fact that things don't always go our way, even when we're promising college students, but that's no excuse not to keep after the world and grabbing as much of it as you can possibly get. I heard somebody express some knowledge when I said Burning Man. An annual arts festival in the Nevada desert happens late August, runs through Labor Day. Well, that gives you a little glimpse of the kinds of artsy community that goes on there. People of all ages, people, very diverse people who come together to express themselves in the desert. Lovely opportunity. At any rate, though, let's see if we can make this go on. We need to look a little bit differently, though, at our portfolio. This might be the kind of experience that you want, but I probably better give you a little bit more information just to be sure about that. What's next? Oh no, go away. There we go, portfolio. The English major, of course, craves etymology, and so I had to include the whole term here. A noun. Comes from an Italian word, portafolio, which means a case for carrying loose papers, which itself comes from the word porta, the imperative form of portare, to carry. But the Latin word ultimately is leaf. So portfolio, literally a portable case for carrying a bunch of loose papers, if you will. Quiz questions coming up next. Another piece of candy at stake here. So I've used the word folio. I'm an English major, so you probably guess what the next question is going to be. What famous book is known as the first folio?
Bible.
Good guess. A little later than that. How about thinking of a famous playwright? Okay, I don't know who that was, but it's going this way. Shakespeare's collected works are known as the first folio. The English major has to do that. There's a nice guy standing in a library with his white gloves. There's another experience for your portfolio. Spent a lot of time in rare books libraries as an English major, just looking over these old artifacts. Wasn't done during Shakespeare's life. He was long dead, but his actors decided they needed to collect his plays, which is the only reason we have any of Shakespeare's plays today. So that's the first folio, if you will. And I can go into more detail about folio because it all has to do with how you fold the paper, but we'll talk about that some other time, if you will. Well, at any rate, let's have a more formal definition here. This comes from the University of Technology at Sydney, so this is from the Australians. An academic portfolio, an organized record of your academic experiences, achievements, and professional development throughout your college career. Consists of a collection of documents which illustrate the variety and quality of work you do, along with your reflections on these documents and on your development over time. See the deliberately bolded terms here. It's a group of collected documents that tell a story over time. You don't just pop them in the portfolio, you look back at them, you have to reflect on them, and they should show your growth throughout your college career. You may have to do a portfolio before you graduate from Eastern. It may be either a physical paper portfolio or something online. But tonight I want to focus more just on the whole concept of it. So let's talk a little bit more about you looking ahead. If you have a portfolio that you're going to present to the Dean of the Honors College or a prospective employer or the graduate school admission, that academic portfolio to prove? Well, there are several things, and here's one of them. That you've mastered the key skills and abilities your college education should help you develop and refine. I don't know if you've done so in this class, but I hope at some point you've already talked about Eastern's key learning goals. We have 3 of them, but I'm going to add a 4th here. And they're all mixed up there in my mastery of the word cloud, as you can see. One of them is that you graduate here as capable communicators. You have to be able to write and speak effectively. Another is that you have to be able to think critically. And we're not talking about you finding fault with everything that you see. We're talking about you being able to analyze, to compare, to contrast, to synthesize, to make informed judgments. That's what critical thinking is all about. The other goal is to become responsible global citizens. Responsible, of course, suggests that you're going to be ethical. It suggests, too, that you're going to be good stewards of the earth that you live in. The rest of it, of course, is about exploring other cultures, people who are different than you are, developing empathy and understanding and being able to work effectively with them. The last learning goal, of course, pertains more to your major. You've got to make sure that you master the key skills and abilities that your particular discipline requires, key knowledge, skills, and abilities that your discipline requires. So those are Eastern's key learning goals, and each of those is going to be assessed along the way. We try to make sure that what we expect you to learn, you do learn, so we measure it. Some of you have probably already contributed essays to the electronic writing portfolio, which measures your mastery of the written language. You've provided speeches in speech or SpeechComm 1390, perhaps, that also go into your portfolio. You've done surveys of your citizenship aptitude, if you will. Some of you even participated in the collegiate learning assessment test, where you had to write and demonstrate your critical thinking skills. But all of these things that we demand of you, we measure with the idea that we're also going to try to improve experiences for subsequent students. Another thing that your portfolio has to demonstrate is that you've participated in what we call high-impact learning experiences. Have you heard that phrase before? 6 times at least already, I hope. Well, these are some of them, and they're all experiences that are designed to help deepen what you learn so that you learn better and you retain what you learn a little longer. Some examples: first-year seminars and experiences, opportunities to meet in small classes with your professors to develop some understanding of what the academic institution is all about and what its requirements are. The kind of course where you start doing your first writing and critical thinking and team building exercises. Common intellectual experiences is a fancy way of saying the Common Core, the Gen Ed program. That whole list of courses that, while you all might not be in the same science or math or fine arts course together, you're all sharing those experiences and have the opportunity to make connections among them because you're taking a set of common courses. Learning communities deliberately happen when you link 2 or 3 courses and make the same students take all 3 of the courses. And the professors themselves work together, collaborate, and try to integrate across the 3 courses so that one builds on the next and knowledge is shared among them all. But that can happen less deliberately too in honors classes that are small and where you sort of accidentally often end up in the same classroom together. Writing intensive courses, you're all involved in some of these. Again, the emphasis here is on doing a lot of writing, but also revising what you're writing so that you come to know the experience a little bit better. Collaborative assignments and projects, again, those opportunities to work together. What you're doing here, of course, is not just learning about working in teams, it's also learning that you can share knowledge. You don't have to know everything because some of the other people in your group know some things as well. So it's about working collaboratively. Undergraduate research, of course, and I really like to extend that to be undergraduate scholarship, because we're not just talking about folks that are in the hard sciences. We're talking about anyone who has the opportunity to really hone the particular skills and abilities required in a discipline by doing great written projects, for instance, or as well as scientific kinds of projects. Diversity, global learning. This can be study abroad, which I think you're going to talk about next week, but it can also be what happens in the classroom when you learn again about cultures that are different from your own. Service learning or community-based learning takes this a step further. Let's say in your economics class you've been focusing on poverty, what causes it, what's the solution for it, and then in the community you go out and help Habitat for Humanity build a home, or you work with disadvantaged students in a school setting to help give them a leg up that will help them to graduate high school and maybe move on to college. So you're actually trying to make a connection between the classroom experience and the community project there. Internships, again, sort of those jobs where you have the opportunity to apply what you learned in class. But what you also get in an internship, of course, is a coach, a mentor who can help guide you through the program. And last but not least, the capstone course or program that can be in your major or in your gen ed. But what it's supposed to be doing is require you to do some kind of scholarly project that forces you to reach back through your whole academic career and figure out what you learned and present that in some kind of a scholarly project. So these are all high-impact learning experiences. Another thing your portfolio has to demonstrate is that you know how to explain what you learned from all of these experiences in a way that's meaningful to others, and last but not least, that you have the potential to contribute to the knowledge base in your particular discipline. All of you are going to save the world in some fashion. I know that's true. I want to show you a little video here, not nearly as entertaining, but with more of a scholarly bent, if you will, that shows some undergraduates who really know something about contributing, explaining their work. I'm afraid this is from a rival institution, but it's still a good example. So take a look at what these folks have to say about what their own research means. Whoops. It's coming. The poster session.
You're looking at and identifying previously unidentified beds. Although this moon is dormant, these volcanoes haven't erupted for about 2.5 billion years, it's still helping us to learn more about it and expand our knowledge of what's going on, not just on our planet. I'm looking at what components of the tarantula are the most produce a fear response in a phobic. So what I do is split up the tarantula, such as just exposing the phobic to just the legs or just the body or just the stingers, and I see which ones are more predictive of fear response in a phobic. The reason why I'm looking at this is so that we can tailor therapy for each individual as opposed to one-size-fits-all therapy, which is what we have right now.
My project is about genetic engineering of bacteria that is causing ecosystems. These bacteria is very efficient in harnessing the CO2 and the sunlight to produce biomolecules.
My project deals with using various geographic information systems to find areas of primary discharge. Using this project, you can find where water is, how to refind it, sustain human living in the desert.
Traditionally, we haven't done a good enough job at the universities of articulating what research really means. It's not either or. It's not
Oops.
education or research. It's all part of creating an environment of learning that's important to fulfilling the needs of all of our students.
I hope that everything that I learned here, because we're doing research on one of the top places to do research in the world, in the U.S. I hope someday I can bring all that knowledge back to my country.
We need to keep on using research as a means of innovation. We need to use it to add value to society. And personally, research has been important for me because I do want to learn more and be a part of that opportunity, but I also am using it to my advantage, and whenever I'm applying to graduate schools, this is kind of giving me an edge as well.
Working with a wonderful professor, I'm working with a wonderful department. It has been a wonderful experience. I'm almost at the end of my PhD program. I know that I'm going to miss this place just because of the wonderful work I get to do out here.
This has been a big impact in my life. It's helped me network. It's teaching me really good skills for research and communication and presentation, and it's helped decide my entire future.
Well, sorry about the commercial for ASU, but you get the idea. It's really important to be able to translate the work that you're doing so that it's meaningful to others. It has to be portable. What we want to look at now is, well, let's take a look. Whoops, there I did it again. Shoot. What kind of stories you want to be in your portfolio by the end of your 4 years at EIU. What I put in there, of course, is everything that was one of the high-impact learning experiences. What's going to be in there, and how do you get there? What's it going to take for you to get from that empty portfolio there to this full portfolio there? Well, one of the things it's going to take is a lot of planning, because these ideas, these stories, these portfolio projects don't just spring out of nowhere. Do you know this trivia question? What goddess sprang fully formed from Zeus's brow? Anybody know this one? I can't hear you. I'm sorry? Who's the goddess of wisdom? Sorry, my aim is bad. And there, you can probably barely see her, but she's jumping right out of Zeus's head there. But the fact is that doesn't normally happen. You really do have to plan ahead, if you will. So you have to start thinking about beginning with the end in mind, and that can be graduation, the job, the graduate school, and then plan accordingly. And you have to do that semester by semester by semester. So what you have to start by doing is asking yourself the age-old question, what do I want to be when I grow up, and what's it going to take for me to get there? So here's my example. Let's say that you want to be a famous environmental writer. Your heroes are there. Edward Abbey's there. Aldo Leopold is there. There's Rachel Carson. And of course, here's one of my current fiction but environmentally focused writers, Barbara Kingsolver. How do you become those people? What do you have to do? Well, one of the things that you've got to do is follow the appropriate curriculum. This is where I get to make a plug for the online catalog. If you haven't used it, you should. If I'm going to be a famous environmental writer, by golly, I'm going to major in environmental biology. Makes sense to me. That little screenshot right out of the online catalog, you can go pull up your major. You can create a printer-friendly version of all your requirements that you can easily print, nice clean copy, and carry it with you wherever you go. There's even a version of this, it's actually a checklist, a degree planner, so that you can keep track of what your curriculum requirements are. But the next thing you have to do is include some pertinent and alsos. In my case, again, the opening conversation that we had was about the Tibetan Buddhist Mongolian Cultural Center and the farm and so forth. Those are and alsos. But in this case, for an individual who wants to be a famous environmental writer, well, why not include a minor that's going to be pertinent, whether it's professional writing or environmental sustainability or maybe even geographic information systems. All those are possibilities that will really expand my reach if I'm going to go in that direction. So be thinking, what else can I put in that portfolio? What concentrations, second majors, minors, and so forth will help me get to where I need to go? And then last, you simply beef up that portfolio with those high-impact experiences. So for some examples, I'm going to start with the mentors, which we didn't talk about, but there's nothing more important to your academic future than your mentors, the people who help guide you along the way, the people who keep you from making missteps, the people who help you make connections, who help refine your research projects and so forth. In this particular case, if I'm doing environmental biology, then Dr. Miners is the person that I would choose for help. But I also might need that assistance from Dr. Fredericks in the professional writing minor. So I'm going to get mentors from the very beginning. I'm going to pick my registered student organizations with care. I'm not going to join one just because a friend says, yeah, come and do this. I'm going to do my research. If I'm an EVB major, then I'm probably looking at the Wildlife Ecology Club, but there's also an honorary society for biological sciences majors. And I understand they do a lot of volunteer projects that would be useful to me. I'm going to get a summer research fellowship, and I'm going to plan for that right now. I have my sights set on the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. I see myself, I see my story. I'm standing on that sandy beach when it's low tide collecting sea slugs. I see that happening to me. Undergraduate research projects. Well, I've got two directions to go because I want to be a writer. I can see myself working on getting into University of Montana's Summer Environmental Writing Institute. And for that project, I actually have to prepare a nice essay. So I'm going to write a wonderfully researched essay that's all about how to get younger people interested in nature again. But I want to do something that's hands-on science too. So I think I might take my GIS minor and turn that into a project as well. Why not use GIS to try to predict the migration of the eastern bluebird now that the climate is changing? I can do that. I'm also going to get easy service learning projects in because the Douglas Hart Nature Center is right down the road here. And I am a person who is opposed to Japanese honeysuckle. It should be eradicated from the Midwest, so I'm going to go to Douglas Hart and eradicate it. But I also want to, again, teach those young people to appreciate the natural world, so I can do some classes with children there as well. I'm going to study abroad. Again, you're doing study abroad next week, I understand. What I'm not going to do with my study abroad is become an academic tourist, one of those people who goes to Ireland for 2 weeks and bar hops as the study abroad experience. No, I think I'm going to go to China and do the ethnobotany trip, or I may go to Ecuador, a semester-long trip, which also includes some opportunities for me to really do some service projects with the local community so that I can really get involved with the people there. I'm going to do internships, and I'm going to do them early and often. The Career Services Director always tells me students who have completed internships automatically earn a higher salary than students who don't. So take an internship, take more than one, and don't put it off to your last summer after you've finished all of your classwork, because you'll be looking for a job or a graduate school before then. And if you don't have that internship already on your resume, it's not going to do you any good. So do an internship. And we've already talked about the mentors. So this is a way to fill up that portfolio for the person who wants to grow up to be that famous environmental science writer. But the point is, again, to be deliberate, to plan ahead, and to really get that portfolio filled up. But let me take you back to your own story. So here we go. It's 3.5 years from now. Maybe it's 4 years from now, depending on exactly when you're graduating. You have done your best to fill up that portfolio, to tell your story as well as you can. It's pretty full, it's graduation day, and you go out to celebrate. So here's a little joke for you that should be familiar. Do you know this punchline? This EIU graduate walks into a bar and he says, ouch, ouch, that's it, ouch. You know that old joke? Well, that's not this story. What really happens is this. You have really prepared well. You have filled up that academic portfolio with all of those high-impact experiences, everyone that you could get your hands around. You did it. But you do go out to celebrate after graduation, and you do go into this bar, and the first person that you see is the last person you ever wanted to see again. Your nemesis from high school, the person who caused you terrible grief for 4 years, the person who put you into those Dr. Seuss slumps or stereotyped you in a way that made you feel horrible. That's the person that you meet. But of course, you know, time heals all wounds. It really does. And so you're gracious. You sit down to the next person, and of course he may not even really remember the kind of grief that he's caused you. But he looks at you and says, you know, I haven't seen you for a long time, so what have you been up to? And you're a nice person, and you've grown over the 4 years, and you've had some amazing experiences, and you've proven yourself time after time after time. You've got this really good academic portfolio, and that's what you tell him. What have I been doing? I have been filling up my academic portfolio with all of those success stories. How about you? What have you been doing? And that is the end.